What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're out in the shop today, and my goal was to try to remain clean and not be covered in hydraulic fluid. But so far, I'm not covered in hydraulic fluid, but I'm not doing real good at remaining clean either. But anyway, in the last video, we got this thing here where it would at least move under its own power, but the parking brake solenoid will not release, and it still shows a park brake on the dash. I had to basically hot wire the solenoid, apply 12 volts to it from another source to get the brakes to release. The guy told me that, you know, everything worked fine, it just quit moving and the park brake light come on. So I don't know what we got going on. He said that they put this switch right here on here, and I thought maybe he had some wires wrong or anything. I was able to find a little bit of a diagram on the internet there, and that appears to be correct. And so I'm trying to sort out what the issue is here, and I pulled this inside panel down right here because I got to do some work in there anyway. Check out that nest up there. I don't know if that's a rat's nest and a wasp nest, or a bird nest and a wasp nest, but I am certainly glad nobody was home in that wasp nest, because there's no way I could have got out of this dozer without freaking falling on my head on top of the concrete or the tracks or something if there would have been wasps in there. That would not have been pretty. That's a big old wasp nest. But that definitely alerts me to an issue that I'll have to keep in mind if I leave this thing sitting outside for a period of time in the summertime. The wasps can get up in there and build a nest, and you hop on this thing on the operator station. And the way it's built, it's pretty tight quarters right here getting in and out. So that's not going to be a good deal. But anyway, I'm trying to sort out what they got going on. I'm going to have to get those nests out of there and try to do some wire chasing and kind of figure out why that we don't have voltage getting down here to our park brake solenoid whenever this switch is in the released position like it is. From what I read on the internet, there's supposed to be a pressure sensor on the rear end back there, or well, they ain't really rear end, hydraulic motors, that whenever that sensor gets a signal from the charge pressure here on the hydraulic pump, that pressure sensor is what turns the park brake light out. But this switch right here is actually supposed to be what activates the solenoid, I believe. So the way I have this hooked up right now is so that I could move the thing, as I've got these jumper leads here going to the park brake solenoid, and I have it jumper over to the work light, the wire to the work light. So when I turn the work lights on, it releases the park brake, because it's just a 12 volt solenoid. So I'm trying to get it sorted out where it'll work like it's supposed to off of this switch, and it'd be nice if the light here would work like it is supposed to as well. So try to sort that out and see what I can come up with. And some of the gauges, or most of the gauges, don't work actually. It looked like the hydraulic temp was coming up. The fuel gauge don't work. The hour meter works. The oil pressure gauge works. But the water temperature, I'm not sure that it works or not. But the light bulbs are out of all of them. As you can see there, they're just hanging everywhere, and they're full of dirt and stuff. So I'm trying to get this thing tidied up a little bit. Another issue we got here is this joystick is leaking hydraulic fluid out of it, so we're gonna have to get a seal kit for that. And this bottom plastic plate here where it pushes the plungers is broke on the back, so the joystick's kind of cocked back further than it should be there, and it appears that the swivel right there is worn out too, is broke. So we'll have to see what we can do to fix all those issues with the joystick right there. So I still have not sorted out the electrical problem here with the park and brake light and whatever. I don't know why I'm not getting power there. Some more searching on that, but I was decided to jump to something else for a minute. I seen there's fuel leaking up here, and I thought it was this line right here. I seen this whenever I got the machine. I seen this line was wet, and I thought it was just a clamp was loose or whatever. And I've cut this hose off and slid it back up on there. I tightened the clamp back up, and sitting there running it and stuff, I noticed that it was still leaking. And so I got to looking a little closer. If you look right here, the injector pump's broke. So I don't know. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a banjo fitting right here, and I don't know how that seals, but usually they have either an O-ring or a copper, ring that seals. But yeah, that's really nice. So I don't know if there's enough threads there that I could put a little Teflon tape on it, or some Loctite or something. You're really not supposed to use Teflon on any kind of pumps or anything like that, because it's a possibility of getting in there. But yeah, so let me see what I can do with that. See if that's going to turn into a whole another level of nightmare, because that thing ain't cheap either. Alright guys, I've got some red Loctite on here. I don't know what knucklehead did this, but I'd like to have a talk with him, that's for sure. I don't know how well it's going to work out. It looks like somebody's already put some red Loctite on it before. If we can get her back started. That's a big if. Oh man. Hard to tell if it's going in there straight to get her to start, because you got those threads on the other side over there. Who would have thought that would have been something to be looking for, Got it in there. It's pretty snug. And threads are not great, but got some red Loctite on there. I don't know. Maybe that thing will work out. I don't know. I guess we'll see. y'all think I got my steam cleaner set just about right. I got that thing set on melt. I got the paint off. This thing's been repainted before. It's got so many scratches and stuff in there, and I don't think the paint job they did was really that great anyway. Whatever paint they used, it don't seem to have adhered quite as well. This primer here has adhered pretty well. So anyway, the sheet metal here, I just took the steam cleaner there with the turbo nozzle, sitting on about 225 degrees Fahrenheit, and cooked the paint off of it right there in the decals. That was the easiest way to do it, and got that done. I also got the decals off the dozer, got it kind of ready to paint, or well, it ain't 100% ready to paint, but it's closer than it was. We got it cleaned up a little bit. And the reason I decided to do this is I kind of swapped projects during the middle of the video. The Loctite on the injector pump, I hadn't run it very long, but so far it does not appear to be leaking. But as I say, I have not run it very long, so it may start back leaking. And I was messing with the park brake, and I'm kind of stumped on what's going on. I'm gonna tell you guys what it's doing, and you can leave in the comments what you think's wrong with it if I hadn't got it figured out by then. But anyway, so I kind of stumped on that, and it kind of got cloudy outside, started sprinkling rain, and decided I just wanted to do something different and kind of go out there and wash some more, kind of get this thing a little cleaned up, make it a little nicer to work on anyway, and think on it for a while. And what I got going on is, on the park brake solenoid here, I've got my pressure gauges in, as you see here, and I've got pressure gauge hooked up to the park brake solenoid, which is right here. And you see this wire right here that's grounded to the bolt over there? Grounded right there to that bolt. Hopefully the camera's picked that up. That was like that whenever I got this machine, and it was tied to that park brake solenoid right there on the purple wire. I'm gonna start this thing up and let you guys see what I'm talking about, and you're not gonna be able to hear me probably, but I just want you guys to check this out, what it's doing. It's kind of got me puzzled at the moment, so crank this thing up and I'll show you guys. I'm gonna move. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move the joystick. This has to be in the start position. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna crank it up. I'm gonna pull this lever up like you were gonna operate it, and move the joystick. Now, if there's zero pressure on that gauge right there, moving the joystick, you'll hear the machine bog down, but the brakes are locked. It won't move. If there's pressure on that gauge right there, that means that that solenoid is working and it's sending pressure through that line back there to release the brakes. Then when you mash the joystick here, the machine will move, okay? So that's what we got going on. And I'm gonna try to show this, and so you can see what I got. It started moving in all of a sudden. I'm going to flip this down. Flip it back up. See, brakes are locked. And then all of a sudden they just unlock. Now we got pressure right there, we let off the switch. mash the switch with my finger. See, I'm mashing this switch and letting off of it with my finger. Now, is that not some crazy stuff right there you ever did see? I'm not sure what's going on. It almost makes you think that it could be this switch, but it's got a brand new switch on it. The guy replaced it. I don't know what in the world it's I got going on here. There's something that's kind of an intermittent problem, and it's something that the previous owner was having an issue with, and he had the switch that was on here, and he put this brand new switch here on it when it quit moving. But obviously somebody was having the same exact issue before the dozer ever quit moving. Alright guys, it's the next day, and I figured out what's going on with this thing on the parking brake issue. I hadn't messed with it very much today, just kind of been chilling, hanging out, getting a little rest. But I did want to kind of come out here and mess with it and kind of figure out what I needed to do, if it was something I needed to order or whatever. So come out here and mess with it for a few hours and trace this circuit out. And what I figured out is there's a black wire right here. You may can see it back there, right behind my finger. That goes to ground. It's grounded to the frame of the dozer down in here. And whenever you flip this up right here, you see that bolt, how that works, comes off of that switch. Whenever you flip that up, it grounds across. There's another terminal back here and another wire back there that you can't see. But there's a white wire right here that it grounds, and it comes right here where I got this bare spot in the wire. I took off some insulation with a razor blade there so I could do some testing. But anyway, this white wire goes up down through the engine harness there, and it goes over to the brake switch over there that's on the service brake down the under on the bottom of it. It comes from that switch there, it changes to a purple wire, and then that purple wire comes back through the engine harness and over here to the park brake solenoid. The other wire on the solenoid comes from the fuse box up there and goes straight to the solenoid right there. So I've checked all that out. It checks good. Now I took my jumper wire and I can ground this wire right here, and the solenoid works, and we get pressure on our gauge, the brakes release, everything works lovely. So that leaves the problem in between right here and, well, the ground wire that's grounded to the frame, because as I say, it goes from the frame down in here, the ground wire, up to here to the switch, back down this white wire to here. So we know it's good from here to the rest of the circuit. So what I figured out by testing, as I say, this is a brand new neutral safety switch slash park brake switch, whatever you want to call it, right here, that the guy put on there. And it was obviously doing this with the old switch that was on there, because they had that wire tied down there to ground that circuit to make the brakes released you know, all the time like they should instead of intermittently, evidently. So I'm saying that that new switch is bad, and I've come to that conclusion by using my voltmeter / ohm meter here. I set this thing to ohms when the circuit is working, because as I say, sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not, as you see here in the video. When the circuit is working, I can ohm the circuit with the load on it, and from here to the white wire up here, I'm getting about 14 ohms, which you know, that's about probably right in that length of wire with a load on it, what you would expect. Now, if I test across this switch, I'm getting 3,300, 3,400 ohms. So there is a lot of resistance between these terminals on this switch right here. So it is passing some voltage, and if you test it with no load on it, you know, when it's not working with the dozer off, if you just test across this switch with your ohm meter, it shows that it's working, everything's lovely, it's grounding, all is well with the world. But when it's engaged and you test it with a load on it, we're getting a whole bunch of resistance right there. So that tells me there's something going on in that switch, or the switch is really not designed well, and so it's not you know, it's not getting what it's supposed to get, a full ground signal to the solenoid down there or something like that, because it seems to be a decent amount of load to operate that solenoid. And something else I run into, as you know, a solenoid is basically a coil. It's testing with a digital meter here, the voltage that goes into one side of the coil, you know, comes out, it kind of back feeds through. So it will fool you on which side of the solenoid you think is hot and which side you think is a ground. I've run into that stuff before. And a meter like this, digital meter, you can have one strand of this little wire right here, and it'll show that the circuit's good. It'll show you got voltage, and it'll ohm with no load on it. You'll think everything is great, but when it's under load, whatever you're messing with won't work. And I dislike electrical stuff, doing electrical stuff for that, because you're liable to have a wire that's almost in two, and you know, unless you can test it with load on it and figure it out, or unless it's, you know, you find it pretty easily, it can be a challenge to try to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. But especially on something that's got a computer on it, which this does not. But if you get something that does, and especially you get into those 5-volt circuits and all that, it turns into more of a nightmare. But so I guess I will try another switch here, and if not, if the new switch don't fix it, I don't know, maybe I could put a relay there in order to ground across, because this switch is working, it's just not passing the current. Like I say, with no load on it, it shows to be working, but it's not passing the current, the ground signal, in order to reliably make that solenoid work. As you see, sometimes it releases, sometimes it does not. And if I take a screwdriver on these back terminals back here, you can't hardly get to it, but if I touch those terminals together, the solenoid engages. You can watch the pressure gauge here, you know, jump up like it's supposed to as soon as you hit it with a screwdriver. Same thing here when I took my jumper wire across here to a ground point like here. As soon as I hit it, you know, it worked. Found out that solenoid will shock you, I guess, because the volts going through the coil of the solenoid and coming back out. It's showing us only 14 volts, but it feels like about 100 volts. It'll let you know if you grab hold of it and you're touching something over here like that. But anyway, so it's back feeding voltage through there. But so I think there's something going on with this new switch, based off of what I'm seeing. That's my diagnosis this time, because as I say, if I can jump a screwdriver across it on those back terminals and it works, you know, it's working. So it's like it's passing enough voltage through that the solenoid will sometimes release, and once it's released, and I think that's why whenever I touch the joystick, it's got a little pressure behind it, and so you're not getting enough current to fully operate the solenoid. But then when you start messing with this, it changes the pressure and maybe it helps it, and then sometimes it'll just work, sometimes it won't. You can let it sit there and it'll eventually pull the solenoid and it'll work. But I'm thinking we got a switch problem there, and as I say, if another new switch don't fix it, we can either put like a relay in there so that it's the full current of the solenoid is not being pulled across this little dinky switch, or we can put a toggle switch on it like a skid steer, you know, and have it where you just got to do 2 steps, where this is a 1-step deal. The way this works, when you pull this lever, what it does, it pulls this valve right here up like that. That sends pilot pressure through here to your joystick, and at the same time it engages or disengages your park brake right here by that right there. So I mean, the worst case scenario, you could put a toggle switch on the park brake and have it where it's kind of a 2-step process. You flip the lever up and then mash the toggle switch, flip the toggle switch to release the brake, like a skid steer is, because a skid steer is a 2-step process as well. You know, you got to pull your arms down on your seat, and then you got to release the parking brake. So could do it like that. You know, I like to try to fix stuff back the way it came or whatever, and make it work properly. But I don't know, there's something crazy going on with that switch. It's a brand new switch, but it's not operating right. But anyway, guess I'll wrap this video up and mess with this project a little bit later here. So anyway, now that we know what's going on with it, something with the switch there, we can pick one of the couple solutions, one of the 3 solutions there I just talked about in order to solve the problem. I'm gonna start with a new switch, I guess, first. And if you put another new switch on there, don't fix it. It's just something going on there. I don't know. I don't see no way the solenoid could be pulling too many amps. I own the solenoid, I'm getting about 8 ohms, something like that. So I don't know what's going on. We could put a relay in there, or we could put a toggle switch on it. Regardless, we'll get that taken care of in another video. I'm gonna wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.